Hey guys, Randy Potato here to rank all of the skills on the Plague Doctor. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe. I post new videos every day. Let's start with his base blight attack, Noxious Blast. You do enough damage to check death's door even through block, and a solid blight DOT that is very scalable with a variety of trinkets. Of course, the downside with the skill is the positional restrictions, only being able to target the front two ranks, which is a position targeted by all your best DPS heroes. Another downside with Blight specifically is two regions have high resistance, although with Alchemist Path or Application Trinkets, the issue is mostly solved. But of course, this introduces another issue in that Alchemist is among the most fragile paths in the game. Because of this, in the Surgeon Blight Application Chance nerf, this has to go in the situational tier. Next up is Blinding Gas, which has received a huge nerf from being OP in Darkest Dungeon 1. This is a back row AoE debuff, applying a blind and a chance of combo token. On upgrade, it also applies a daze, which is somewhat relevant now that double daze delivers a stun. This is not a bad skill, but it's a bit underwhelming with just a solo resistible blind token. It just doesn't fit on any bars really unless you really need some extra combo generation, albeit RNG combo rather than guaranteed. Barely slips in the situational tier behind Blast. Next is Incision, the Plague Doctor's only melee skill, not usable in rank 4, a common Plague Doctor position. This is still, however, a universally useful skill. Of course, with Surgeon Path, this is your bread and butter, dealing top tier damage with a bleed on top. Still, outside Surgeon, this is still a good ability to have on your bar. The only attack usable from rank 1 if you happen to be shuffled, his only melee attack to keep from being locked by the Act 1 boss, and a strong alternative to Blight if you happen to be in a Blight-resistant region or want more front-load damage instead of DOT. Of course, it doesn't scale nearly as well as Noxious Blast outside of the Surgeon Path, but you can never go wrong equipping this in most cases, even with a path like Physician that reduces your bleed damage. One note is that, like Noxious Blast, this does eat your combo tokens, which is sometimes fine so you can apply the DOT, but sometimes can ruin your plans if you're a combo-focused team. These downsides keep it out of the OP tier. Next is Battlefield Medicine, your base heal and an absolute powerhouse. You have 3 uses per combat, and will activate a strong heal anytime you're under 50% HP, a better threshold than this game's other heals. In addition, this clears all DOTs, whether you're at the HP threshold or not, and on upgrade clears Plague Doctor's DOTs on use as well. Of course, any sort of healing is welcome in Darkest Dungeon 2, where it has been strongly nerfed. Getting the DOT clear on top of that makes this an absolutely insane OP ability. There's never a reason not to have this on your bar. PD with Medicine is your best bet if you want the best chance not to suffer a random death with a big damage DOT. Ounce of Prevention is an AoE party buff, giving you 50% resist to dots and disease across the board for 3 turns, upgrading to 25% and a shorter cooldown. Unfortunately, the dot resist is just a bit too low and the tempo much too slow for this to fit on the PD's crowded bar. Unless you're running her worst path position, in which case it receives enough of a buff to maybe be relevant, especially since you don't do damage on that path. I haven't used this since it received the nerf in early access, and I rarely find a situation where I would ever want to use this over a more aggressive strategy, especially since I have dot clear and heals available already as a Plague Doctor. Straight in the trash it goes. Plague Grenade is a back row only ability, doing AoE damage and blight to the back ranks. Of course, in addition to stripping tokens and doing back row death checks, this blight is insane for an AoE and scales well with some trinkets. Very easy way to melt trash mobs that can be hard to reach in the back, and holds up well in even some boss combats, like the General and Librarian. I even put it on my bar with Surgeon Path, not for the blight of course, but to give me a way to check death's door on the back line and strip tokens. Not getting the blight damage on her best path Surgeon keeps it out of the top tier, but it certainly fits atop the universally useful tier. Emboldening Vapors is an any rank to any rank buff, giving a solitary strength token with a 1-turn cooldown, with the upgrade adding a speed token and removing said cooldown. Unfortunately, this solo strength token just isn't good enough in almost every scenario. There are so many better buffs available, from Battle Ballad to Command, the Vestal's Consecration of Light, and the Leper's Self-Buff Revenge. With almost all your Plague Doctor builds, you just want to do more damage with your Alchemist or Surgeon paths, rather than waste a turn buffing. With Physician, you do get an extra strength token added, but frankly, you could get much more front load and utility with Disorienting Blast on that build. Certain fights and builds, it can be usable, I suppose, if you have no scaling and one monster DPS that needs to generate strength, but those scenarios are so scarce that this skill has to go on the top of the trash tier. Disorienting Blast provides you a single target enemy shuffle and a daze with a small chance of weak, with the upgrade providing stun on combo. With the new double daze stun mechanic, this has some utility in that sort of build, but overall this skill is pretty niche, especially since the weak is nowhere near guaranteed. I just can't fit this on my bar with any build but Physician, where this gains a Vuln token. Still, it technically has enough utility with enough builds that it slips in the back of the situational tier. Indiscriminate Science has a strong case for best overall skill in the game, and certainly the best heal. The base version of this skill is underrated, removing your positive tokens in exchange for HP per token. With a plethora of ways to generate positive tokens, especially on tanks like Man-at-Arms, this can often be a powerhouse heal that's easily set up, especially since it has no use limit and a cooldown of only 1 turn. And of course, the upgrade is absolutely disgusting, removing all your negative tokens as well, notably even stun and unique debuffs like the Harvest Hunger. There's never a reason not to equip this, and it's often a priority N1 upgrade to make you near unkillable in conjunction with her battlefield medicine. Clear-cut top PD skill in the OP tier, and frankly in need of another nerf. Cause of Death is a unique boss killer skill, only usable from the front 3 ranks. It clears all your enemies' dots and converts them into immediate damage. This means if you have, say, a 5-point dot with 3 turns left, when mastered, the skill will deliver an immediate 15 damage to the enemy. This skill ignores block, but also ignores any strength or crit tokens on your PD as well. This is very powerful, mostly against bosses without Death's Door or with few actions such as the General in rushing them down quicker. I find it most useful against the Focused Vault, since that fight is a pure damage race. You need a strong dot focus team for this to be relevant, and a few fragment combat items help scale this faster. Definitely fits right behind Blast in the situational tier. Most of the game it's just not usable, but is a powerhouse upgrade late game against the right act boss. And finally we have Magnesium Rain, a full AoE burn and corpse clear. This is an always equipped with me just for the corpse clear effect alone. It does not do any damage and thus does not proc block or Death's Door, but is a way to clear AoE dodge as well. Of course, the dot application is slow, and this isn't really a damage strategy since you don't generally want to spread damage, although with a few Sprawl Trinkets this could transform into reasonable DPS. But it has its uses in getting a dot on a harder to reach hero near or on Death's Door, and again with the corpse clear ability, this has a place on every bar, making it a clear addition to the back end of the universally useful tier. Overall, the Plague Doctor has a stunning variety of ways to inflict damage, and her kit features the 2 best heals in the game, along with a handful of niche to useless utility abilities. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I post new content every day.